Hello everybody and welcome again. Today we're going to go ahead and go through a few different loops in PowerShell and explain some of the differences. We're going to go through the for loop, we're going to go through the for each loop, while loop, and the do while loop, as well as the do until loop. And I'll explain what each one does and kind of some of the differences as we go. So we have our PowerShell ISE window up here. And let's go ahead and bring down the scripting pane so that we can actually print out our loop and we can see what's happening here. So the first loop we're going to talk about is the for loop. This is just allowing you to iterate through a list that you give it, and then it will just it'll just loop through here over and over and over again. So let's go ahead and run this and see how it behaves. So when we press run, this is what it does. It loops through, it gives a variable of I, it sets that to 1, and then it's saying I is less than 1, and then it's checking to see if I is less than 1, and then if it is, it's just, I'm going to write this out, and then it's going to do this until I equals 10. So while it's less than 10. So it did it 10 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is kind of one of the most simple loops. Let's go ahead and check out the next one, which is going to be a for each loop. For each loops come in really handy when we need to pipe data in. So let's go ahead and clear this out. We'll paste our little script in here. And we're going to do get child item. We're going to give it a path. And we'll just use our ctemp path. Let's go ahead and run this and we'll explain how it works. All right, so let's go ahead and run through our for each loop. This is going to run get child item, which gets a list of all the items inside a given folder. And then we're going to pipe that in using the special pipe character and then use a for each object loop. And then we're going to just write out the name of the object for every object in there. All right, so let's go ahead and press play and we'll see how this behaves. Okay, so that's exactly what it's doing. So it's getting the child item, and then for each item in this array, it's storing this inside an array. For each item in that array, it is writing the name of that variable. $_ is just a special variable that says for every item inside this array on the left-hand side. Let's go ahead and loop through that and just grab the name. Let's go ahead and check out a while loop and see how that behaves. So first we're going to set a variable. We're going to set our x variable equals 0. And we're going to say while x is less than 10, write 1. And then we're going to increase the value of x every time we write. So this should write the number 1 10 times. So let's go ahead and clear that out here and let's press that. And there we go. We got this 10 times. And you might be thinking that this is very similar to the for loop above. But what you can actually do is you can set this variable to change. So x can always be 0. And then you can have some other condition inside here. So this could be when a process stops. So you could get a process, and then you could get the status of that process. And when the status changed to stop, you can change the variable, and then you could get like a warning on your screen or something like that. Stuff like that is typically what a while loop is used for. Okay, so we can also do a do while loop. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let's clear this screen, and let's check out a do while. So it's going to be very similar. You're going to give a variable, and then we're just going to set that. We're going to declare that. And then we're going to say do. So this is what we want to happen. And this is just a while. So it's basically separating the the while condition out, so into two chunks. So you're saying do this while this. So we're gonna say do, and then it's gonna check to see if x equals 0, and then it's gonna write 1. And then if it's not, it's gonna write a 2, and then it's gonna increase it. And then it's gonna do that while x is less than 10. So let's go ahead and check and see how this behaves differently. Okay, perfect. So you can see that it printed one time, and then every time after that for the next 9 times, it printed 2. That's because x initially equaled 0, and then we checked to see if it equals 0, and while it did, we printed 1, and then we increased it. So the very first time it went through this loop, it increased it once, and we had a value that wasn't 0 every time after that, so it printed out 2. So you can see that we can do things a little bit differently than the while statement that we had before when we're separating that out. And we can also use if statements in here to kind of change how that behaves. So let's go ahead and check our next statement, which is going to be an until statement. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to set a value of x equals 0, and we're going to say do, and then we're going to write the number 1, and then we're going to increase our variable. So after the first run, this will be 0. After that, it will be 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and on and on. And we're going to say keep doing this until it is equal to 10. So let's see what happens there. So you can see we just got a 1 10 times. But this could be anything. So you could say do write 1 until get process. And we can just grab a process of calculator app. Okay, so we could do something like this. We could do the x variable equals 0, and then we could do this. We could write a 1, and then it'll increase that. And then it'll keep doing this until the calculator app is responding. So let's go ahead and check. Okay, so it wrote a 1, and then it stopped writing after that. So it went through the first loop, and it stopped because it did this first check, and it saw that process was responding, and then it stopped going through the loop. Okay, so that's our last example of loops in PowerShell. I'll go ahead and in other videos, I'll get in more into depth in what each of these loops do and why you might want to use them. Okay, thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.